Christian Hartau. Welcome to School of Management, Fudan University.
Thank you.
It's my great honor to have a chance to interview you about Industry 4.0. Okay, so in your opinion, what's the essence of Industry 4.0?
Yeah, I mean, Industry 4.0, or people sometimes say it's the fourth revolution of the industry. In essence, it's about the data which is generated and what you can make out of data. It has a lot to do with integrating different systems. It has a lot to do with innovation, which comes out of it. And it has a lot to do with new technologies, like digital technologies. But I think for the first time now, with this 4.0, a big difference is also the way how we collaborate, the way how we work together. And I mean, you know, one of these phrases is often called the agile way of working. I think it's not only about agile, but it's mainly about collaborating in a much broader scale than we had before. And I think, to answer your question, I think it's even, I would say, it's vital that we realign our organizations, and I think in a way that we move from dedicated tasks of one unit to more, again, the collaborative way of working together. And sometimes it even hinders you if you have too many boxes where people identify themselves with. So it's much better to have a mindset of openness. And I think that can be achieved by changing also an organizational setup.
Yeah, because in China, let's say like Alibaba,
Yeah.
A big giant in e-commerce. On one hand, I think, let's say, they try to attract more and more consumers in terms of customer flow. And on the other hand, back end, they focus on building organizational capability very much compared to those consumption business. Manufacturing business is kind of traditional, and the organizational structure for manufacturing industry is relatively stable, right? If you really want to change the organizational structure for manufacturing industry, I think it's pretty challenging in some aspects, right?
Yes, yes. I mean, I think I would say there are two parts of it. The one part is, I think we need people today with a skill set that just didn't exist 10 years ago, or maybe even 5 years ago. If you talk about artificial intelligence experts, if you talk about data analysts, these are all new jobs that didn't exist. And today we see there's a lot of fight for getting these talents on board. And the other part, I think, is what you mentioned, also the existing people you have in your organizational units, especially in manufacturing, to open up their mindset and to broaden them in order to be open for new technologies. And we see that there is a lot of change necessary, which needs to be supported from the management, and also a lot of efforts to convince people, because it's very well known, if you want to introduce something and the majority of your organization is against it, even as the top executives, you can shout as loud as you want. If people don't believe in it, at the end of the day, you won't be successful. And therefore, for me, this is also a part of this industry transformation, that you need to spend more and more time making the case, convincing your people.
So another thing is like regarding Industry 4.0. So basically, I think the reason why, I mean, part of the reason why we try to implement Industry 4.0 is nowadays customer demand becomes more and more personalized. You know, in Chinese we have so-called, let's say, thousands of people that have thousands different faces, which means different people have different demand, right?
Yes.
In your mind, that's how Industry 4.0 can help in this regard.
Actually, I believe that Industry 4.0 is the cornerstone of having a more flexibilized and individualized production. And I fully agree with you. This will be the trend which we will see in the future, definitely in the B2C sector, but I guess also in the B2B sector. and the one who can adapt the fastest will have a big benefit. And I think we need to come to more flexible production sites, and this more flexible means, you lose economies of scale, and that's kind of the challenge.
Yeah.
How can you manage this? Having lesser production, and I think the answer is you need highly efficient processes. You need as little as possible waste streams, and you need a very constant and top-notch quality. And I think the tools of digital, being it sensors, being it advanced process control system, but also being it artificial intelligence modules, which kind of have a feedback loop on your process, they will enable us to compete against the, let's say, old style big vessel with huge volume, but only making one product at a time.
Okay.
So it won't be possible without Industry 4.0, I would say.
Okay, good. Also, in your presentation, you talked about digitalization strategy, also digitalization practice at Wacker. You mentioned that 50% of orders currently, actually, they are online.
And our aim is really to move this to a fully digital system within the next couple of years. And of course, you cannot do it alone. You need the customers.
Right.
And we have a very broad customer structure. So we have big multinationals. Typically with them, they are also on a digital track, I would say. But we also have small and mid-sized customers. And for them, sometimes it's more challenging and maybe not affordable for the time being. But I believe it will be a big benefit for us if we can really integrate the whole supply chain from order entry to really delivery of product logistics in one system. And I would say that the manufacturing industry or chemical industry today isn't there, and it's quite a way to go. We have many different complex systems, be it on the customer relationship side, be it in the plants, even on a lower level on the process control systems, and to fully align them, that will definitely take some time. But I'm absolutely confident the one who is the first will create the biggest benefit, and that's why we focus a lot on these topics.
So also, let's say during the presentation, actually, I mentioned about the book written by Herman Simon, Hidden Champions,
Yes.
right? So in his book, again, he surveyed nearly 2,700 hidden champions. So nearly half of them come from Germany. And also then, I think the remaining companies, they come from USA, Japan, and China, okay? And also different countries, they have different national strategy to lead their manufacturing industry to the future, right? So in your opinion, let's say, what do you see the future of the manufacturing industry globally, considering the four countries, either competition and also cooperation?
Well, I mean, in general, often when you hear talks about digitalization and new business models, and many people are kind of a little pessimistic about the manufacturing industry. I disagree. Because at the end of the day, you would like to hold something in your hand, and even if it's a smartphone. I mean, you cannot digitalize a smartphone. It's a great digital device, but somebody at the end of the day needs to produce it. I guess tomorrow we want to sit on a chair. Somebody needs to produce a chair. I don't want to sit on a virtual chair. I like a chair. So therefore, I think there are a lot of opportunities in the manufacturing sector globally. So I'm not the pessimist on that. But I think you need to be prepared. I mean, the more flexible you can produce, the better quality you can produce, and at a competitive cost, that will become really a prerequisite. And everybody who's not coping with that might get into trouble. If you compare the different countries, I mean, for me, an interesting example is, like what we saw in Europe. I mean, Germany always kept a high share of manufacturing. And I think that's also part of the success model of these hidden champions, but also the bigger manufacturing companies. They always improved and they always wanted to be the best in quality and in performance. And then well, you have your market. In the UK, on the contrary, there was a strong trend decades ago to move out of manufacturing and think that everything is great within financial services. I have my doubt if that is the right strategy. Yes, we need financial services, no doubt. But at the end of the day, somebody needs to produce stuff. And if you now make the spin to the US and China, I think the US had a similar trend of getting manufacturing out of the country. I think the challenge is, once it's out, it is very difficult to get it back, because you don't maybe have not the right skilled people. I mean, and also this idea of, that Apple should now produce in the US, I think it's just not possible anymore, because the highly skilled people that make these equipment, they're in China.
Right.
So you just cannot say, move it back.
It's not just only about machines, equipment.
It's about the people.
It's about people, but it's about the whole value chain.
Yeah.
Right.
And from that perspective, I think the Chinese strategy that always focused on manufacturing and now on upgrading the manufacturing is definitely the right way forward. And I see a lot of chances for the global for global trade and for global manufacturing.